Sade grew up in a world of marble floors, security gates, and international vacations. Her father was a retired military general who now owned a chain of hotels across Nigeria, and her mother ran a boutique in Lekki Phase 1. From a young age, Sade was used to maids laying out her clothes and drivers taking her to school, but she never let the privilege get to her head. She was the kind of rich girl who greeted her elders, even if they were domestic staff, and helped her friends with lunch money behind her parents' back. Kunle, on the other hand, was born in Ajegunle. His father died when he was 10, and his mother sold boiled corn and pear by the roadside to feed her 5 children. Kunle never made it past OND in Yaba Polytechnic before financial struggles forced him to drop out. He worked odd jobs, loading cement, washing cars, and running errands in offices. He was tall, charming, and street smart. One day, he delivered a package to a hotel where Sade was hosting a charity event. Their eyes met as she handed him a tip. It wasn't love at first sight, but something shifted. Sade found him fascinating. His Yoruba had a rugged rhythm, and he wasn't intimidated by her background. He made her laugh in ways the polished boys from Ikoyi never could. They exchanged numbers. At first, it was just banter and text messages. Then, he started walking her to her car. She started calling him after meetings just to hear his voice. Before long, their friendship grew into a beautiful relationship. They spent every possible time together. Kunle did not have money, but Sade did not care. He loved her, and to Sade, that love was more important than anything money could buy. But fate had other plans for their relationship. Her mother saw them outside a restaurant in Victoria Island. "Who is that gentleman you were with?" she asked later that evening. Sade knew her parents would not approve of Kunle's background, but she hoped that if they met him and hear him speak, they would be charmed by him just as she was the first day they met. "He is my special friend, Mom. I have invited him over for dinner." When Kunle met her parents for dinner, everything seemed fine until Kunle spoke about his background. Hell broke loose. Kunle was sent out of the house by Sade's parents. "What are you doing with that school dropout?" her mother screamed. "You will end this disgrace at once," her father spoke firmly. But Sade was stubborn. She had inherited her father's strong will, but now she used it against him. "Kunle is a good man," she urged. "He may not have money, but he has integrity." Her parents laughed bitterly. "Integrity does not pay rent," her mother spat. "It does not buy you clothes. It does not take care of your kids." "Everything about that boy screams opportunist," her father said, with a look of disgust on his face. They were still speaking when Sade dropped a bombshell. I am pregnant," she said, fear visible in her eyes. Her father nearly collapsed. "You are what?" "You think this is Nollywood?" he yelled. "If you are truly pregnant, then you must leave my house at once. No child of mine will bring disgrace to my name, not under my roof." Within a week, Sade packed her things. No driver, no car, no money, just her handbag and her unborn child. Kunle was shocked but grateful. He found a small one-bedroom apartment in Mushin. That was where their real life began. The apartment was tiny, hot, and always smelled of damp clothes, but Sade never complained. Kunle promised to take care of her and the baby. Every morning, he left the house with a folder of his CVs, walking under the Lagos sun from one office to the next. Sade stayed at home, going through the struggles of her first trimester and thinking about ways to help Kunle. One morning, she took the last 5,000 naira from her savings and bought beans, onion, pepper, and oil. She borrowed a neighbor's large frying pan and began frying akara in front of their compound. The neighbors were skeptical at first, but one bite turned into returning customers. Every morning, she would set up her small table and umbrella and start frying akara at 6 a.m. to catch the workers and students rushing off. Kunle helped her set up before he set out job hunting. People began calling her Madam Akara because she was really good at it. Her hands moved with precision, flipping balls of butter into golden perfection. With each sale, she saved a little, gave some to Kunle, and put the rest back in the business. They now ate better, and she could even buy Kunle a new shirt for his interviews. When Kunle got home, she would massage his feet and encourage him. God will make a way, my love, she always said. And eventually, he did. One afternoon, Kunle returned home, smiling happily. Babe, I got the job. He had been hired as a driver for Chief Odogu, a billionaire real estate mogul known across Lagos. The pay wasn't too huge, but the tips were good, and the prestige meant something. Also, there was room for Kunle to grow from a driver to something even bigger. Sade cried when he gave her the news. It felt like their breakthrough had finally come. Within 2 months, they moved from their one room in Mushi to a two-bedroom flat in Ojodu. It had proper bathroom, a fan that worked, and windows that opened out to sunlight instead of sewage. They were building something. They were happy, or so it seemed, until Kunle started changing. His new job with Chief Odogu opened doors and temptations. One afternoon, as he waited by the black Range Rover parked outside Chief's Lekki mansion, a lady in a red jumpsuit strutted towards him. She had caramel skin, long lashes, and an aura of entitlement. "You must be the new driver," she said, slipping into the back seat. "I am Sandra, Chief's favorite niece. Do not forget that." She smelled of money and mischief. Over the next few weeks, she always requested Kunle for errands. One day, as he opened the door for her, she smirked. "You want to escape poverty, right? You better stick with me. I can make you very rich." At first, Kunle tried to ignore her flirting, but the more she praised him, his looks, his potential, his drive, the more he felt seen in a way Sade no longer made him feel. One day, after a private drop-off, she leaned close and whispered, "Chief's company is about to launch a logistics arm. I can help you land a managerial role, but I do not do things for free." She kissed his cheek and walked away. Kunle stood frozen, her words echoing. That night, he sat on the bed beside Sade, who was folding baby clothes, and stared at her like she was some stranger. Weeks passed, and Kunle became distant. Sade noticed him guarding his phone like a soldier. One evening, as she served dinner, his phone rang on the table. She picked it up instinctively, about to say hello, when Kunle burst out of the bathroom, soap still on his hair, water dripping. "Drop that phone," he shouted, snatching it violently. She gasped. "Kunle, it was just ringing. Don't ever touch my phone again." He backed at her and stormed off. That night, he did not touch his food. He lay on the edge of the bed, phone glued to his chest. Sade lay in silence, her back against him, her tears flowing down her eyes. A few days later came the evening that changed everything. It was a Saturday. Sade had just returned from the market. Her hands were full of groceries. When she opened the door, she found a stranger sitting on her couch. It was Sandra, in a bodycon dress, sipping wine like she owned the place. "Oh, hey," Sandra said with a smile. "You must be the wife." Kunle stood up awkwardly. Um, um, Sandra is staying with us for a while." Sade's jaw dropped. "What do you mean?" she asked. Kunle cleared his throat. I need you to move to the guest room. She will use the master bedroom." Sade stared at him, her grocery bag slipping from her hand as Sandra walked into the master bedroom. "You are moving me out of my own bedroom for her?" Kunle avoided her eyes. "It's just temporary," he explained. "I am doing this for us. Sandra's family is powerful. Please, don't mess this up for me." That night, Sade lay on a narrow mattress on the floor of the guest room, and she listened as her husband laughed with another woman in the master bedroom. She could not believe what was happening. It was like a terrible nightmare. Watching Kunle with another woman in their matrimonial home. The same Kunle she had given everything up for. The same Kunle whose child she was carrying. Her unborn child kicked, bringing her back to reality. She held her belly and whispered, "This will not be the end of us." The days that followed were agonizing. Sade cooked, but no one ate her food. She cleaned, but received no thanks. Sandra treated her like a maid, asking for tea, complaining about everything, including Sade's dressing. "Please, don't wear that cloth around this house. It's depressing," she complained. Kunle said nothing. He neither defended nor stood up for her. He looked away, pretending not to hear. The next day, Sade found her wrapper in the trash. When she confronted Kunle, he said, "Sandra is bringing me opportunities you never could. Why can't you just suck it up and pretend a little?" That night, as Sade lay on her mattress in the guest room, she promised herself she would find a way out. She would not let her baby be born into such toxic environment. A few days later, she resumed frying Akara in front of their compound. With swollen feet, aching back, and a belly 7 months heavy with life, she lit the stove. She had to make money somehow. As the oil heated, Kule stepped out in his crisp uniform. Sandra followed behind in a silk robe. They stopped when they saw her. Sandra burst into laughter. "So this is what you've become, Madam Akara." Kule smirked, arms folded. "You have decided to go back to your past, haven't you?" he said mockingly. Sade didn't respond. She just blinked fast to hold the tears back, flipping Akara with trembling hands. It got worse. Every morning, Sandra would intentionally walk past Sade with loud insults. "I can't believe I'm breathing the same air as fried beans." Kunle would say nothing. Sometimes he even chuckled. One morning, Sandra tossed leftover wine at Sade's stand, shouting, "I have warned you to stop frying this here. I can't stand the smell of it." That was the final straw. As the neighbors murmured, Sade stood up, her apron stained with wine, her eyes filled with fury and pain. She didn't say a word. She walked into the house, packed her things, and walked out, dragging her bag behind her and her swollen belly leading the way. With the little money she had saved, she found a small one-bedroom in the outskirts of Yaba. The walls were cracked, the water didn't run half the time, and the kitchen had no windows, but it was hers. She laid a tin mattress on the floor, set up her kerosene stove near the balcony, and rested her back on the pillow. That night, the silence was loud, but there was no insults. It was just her and her unborn child. She spoke into the darkness, her hands on her belly. "We will be fine, my baby. I promise. I will give you everything and more, even if I have to start with selling Akara." The next few weeks were brutal. Sade could barely stand for long. Some days, she fried Akara until her feet swelled like balloons. Customers came slowly. Some took pity and bought, others walked away. The heat was cruel. Her hands were blistered. One afternoon, she nearly fainted trying to carry her cooler outside. She sat on the floor and wept bitterly. "Oh dear Lord, are you watching me? Do I deserve this?" she asked, with her hands lifted up. After a few minutes, she wiped her tears and encouraged herself to stay strong for her unborn child. The next day, as she was returning from the market, she felt a sharp pain across her lower back. Her back dropped. The world spun. "Help!" she screamed. A woman selling banana rushed over. "She's in labor. Someone, please help. Stop a tricycle." She was rushed to the nearby health center. Between screams and contraction, she clutched her phone and dialed Kunle's number with trembling fingers. The baby is coming. I'm in labor. Please come." But Kunle just sighed. "I'm at work. I will come later," he said. Then he hung up. That was the last time she heard from him. By nightfall, a baby girl was born. She had big brown eyes and a tiny birthmark near her nose. Sade sobbed tears of joy as she held her daughter, whispering, "Welcome, my angel. I will call you Anu, God's mercy." When it was time to get discharged, the nurse handed her a bill. Sade's eyes widened. She didn't have the money. She sat on the hospital bed, holding her baby, wondering if she would be allowed to go home. She thought about calling her parents, but they had long blocked her. Just then, a kind stranger, an elderly man whose wife was also in the ward, approached her. "You remind me of my daughter," he said. "Let me settle this bill." Sade broke down in gratitude. She could not believe the favor that was coming her way. It felt like this baby had brought blessings and favor to her. She was so grateful to God. Meanwhile, things were unraveling between Kunle and Sandra. He had been asking more frequently about the contract she had promised. Sandra would always brush him off, changing the subject, until one evening when she snapped at him. "Do I look like HR? Am I your godmother?" He blinked in surprise. "But you said..." She laughed. "I said what I had to say. You are still a driver, Kunle. Don't mistake convenience for commitment." That night, he sat on the edge of the bed, realization crashing into him. He had betrayed his wife for an illusion. Sandra no longer even looked at him. In fact, she spent more time chatting with the chief's PA. Soon, it became impossible to ignore. Sandra would giggle loudly at the back seat while texting. Once, Kunle caught her adjusting her makeup in the mirror and whispering, "I can't wait to be done with this fool." He knew she wasn't talking about anyone else. The worst came during the company dinner. The chief's PA, a sleek man named Dimeji, openly held Sandra's waist as they posed for photos like a couple. Kunle, who had been requested to serve drinks at the event, watched them from the sidelines, mouth dry, fists clenched. Every laughter, every glance was a slap to his pride, but he said nothing. He couldn't afford to lose his job. Back in her tiny apartment, Sade adjusted to life with her newborn daughter, Aanu. The days were long and the nights were even longer. Anu cried often, her tiny lungs reminding the world that she existed. Sade barely slept. During the day, she would rock the baby in one hand and flip Akara with the other. There were days when she only ate gari and salt water just to make sure Anu's formula did not run out. But with every hardship, she grew stronger. She wrote daily affirmations and pasted them on the wall. I am rising. My child will lack nothing. This is not my end. Even in pain, she refused to be buried. Sade's turning point came unexpectedly. A woman from a nearby office came to buy Akara one morning. After tasting it, she smiled. This tastes like my grandmother used to make in Abeokuta. Coincidentally, Sade had learned how to fry Akara from her father's chef, whose origin was Abeokuta. The next day, the lady brought 4 of her colleagues. The day after that, a photographer stopped, intrigued, and snapped a photo of Sade flipping Akara beside her baby stroller. He posted it with the caption, "This is what strength looks like." The post went viral. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. Orders began to roll in, and for the first time in months, Sade found herself smiling without holding back. Encouraged by the response, Sade designed a small menu and created a WhatsApp business account. She named her hustle Taste of Sade. Within a week, she got an order for a 25-person office breakfast. She walked through the night, frying yam, puff-puff, preparing sauces, and of course, Akara. By morning, she made the delivery herself. The feedback was amazing. "This is the best I have tasted," one manager said. That comment stayed with her. Maybe this wasn't just survival anymore. Maybe it was the beginning of something bigger. Kunle, meanwhile, was spiraling. His calls to Sandra now went unanswered. She stopped coming home most nights, claiming she was working late, but Kunle knew she was with the chief's PA. When she was home, she insulted him openly. "Your breath smells like failure, Kunle," she once said. "I should have picked your colleague instead of you." But Kunle couldn't speak up. Chief still hadn't heard of their affair, and he couldn't risk losing his job. He started sleeping in the guest room, eating cold food, and drowning in thoughts and alcohol, while Sandra spent weekends at luxury hotels, tagging Dimeji in photos with champagne glasses. One afternoon, Kunle followed her. She said she was going to the spa. Instead, he saw her at a beach resort with Dimeji. They kissed in public. When she saw Kunle watching from a distance, she smirked and kissed Dimeji again, longer this time. It was deliberate, humiliating. That night, when she returned home, he confronted her. "I gave up everything for you," he screamed. She rolled her eyes. "Then you're a bigger fool than I thought." She packed some things and walked out. Kunle sat alone in the silence, staring at the ceiling, remembering the day he told Sade to move to the guest room. Sade was now becoming a force. She received a call from a woman organizing a women in business seminar. "We want you to speak. Your story is so inspiring." Sade was nervous. It had been a long time since she stood before people to speak, but when she climbed the stage and shared how she went from betrayal to breakthrough, the room stood and clapped loud. A lot of women offered her business support. One lady donated new cooking equipment, another offered free branding help. That night, Sade looked at her daughter sleeping beside her and she whispered a prayer of thanksgiving to God. When a food blogger invited her for an interview, she asked, "How did this start?" Sade laughed. "It took heartbreak, fire, tears, and God." She shared how she was once thrown out of her home while pregnant, how she sold Akara with swollen feet and zero support, how God used strangers to lift her when the people she loved broke her. It became one of the most viewed videos on YouTube that month. Taste of Sade became a trending hashtag. Instagram orders came from celebrities, influencers, and offices all over Lagos. She even received ambassadorial deals from brands wanting her to showcase their products. One day, an event planner she had previously worked with contacted her to cater to a new estate's grand opening. As usual, she prepared her signature Nigerian street foods to perfection. On the day of the event, she arrived wearing a beautiful Akara dress, while her staff looked outstanding in their clean uniforms. What she did not know was that Faith was about to come full circle. Her stand was elegant: brass trays, clay pots, and a variety of local dishes. Everyone wanted a taste of Sade. As the chairman sampled a plate of her puff puff and peppered snail, his eyes lit up. "This is the real deal," he exclaimed. "Who is behind this?" "Her name is Sade," the event planner replied. "She is the CEO." At that moment, she realized that the chairman was Chief Odogu, Kunle's boss. Just then, Kunle turned from where he was directing cars. Their eyes locked. Time froze, but she stood tall, radiant in a branded Ankara gown. He took a step forward, then stopped because he realized there was nothing he could say. He had lost her. As he stood there, frozen in place, he couldn't recognize the woman before him. She was no longer the girl he once belittled. This was a woman who had risen from ashes and fire, who now had the presence of a queen. He watched her staff surround her, arranging trays, serving dishes. Clients praised her as they tasted her food. One influencer even said, "Whoever marries this woman is blessed forever." Kunle's throat tightened. That could have been him. That should have been him. But he let it slip. Sade didn't speak to him at the event. She didn't need to. Her success screamed louder than any insult. After the guests left, Chief Odogu approached her. "You have impressed me, madam," he said. "How would you like a permanent contract to cater to all my company events across Lagos?" Sade nearly wept. "Thank you, sir," she said, shaking his hand firmly. As she loaded her van to leave, Kunle stood by the gates, head low. She turned once, caught his eyes, and shook her head, not in pity, but in finality. He raised his hand as if to wave, but she had already turned away. Back in her apartment that night, Sade baited Aanu and sang softly to her. The baby giggled, splashing water with her tiny hands. Sade smiled. She had known pain, yes, but she also knew peace now. No more insults, no more fear. She put her daughter to bed and journaled as she did every night. "Today I fed kings. Today I stood on grounds where I was once stepped on. Today I won." Her phone buzzed. It was a message from a women's magazine. "You have been selected for the most inspiring woman of the month." The text read. Sade wept again. This time, it was tears of joy. Kunle's nights were cold and quiet. Sandra was long gone, now fully with Dimeji. She posted photos of them on social media. Vacations, yacht rides, soft life. Kunle stopped looking. There was no use. He still worked for Chief, but now every day felt like punishment. Every route he drove took him past one of Sade's growing outlets. Taste of Sade was everywhere, on billboards, flyers, even TV ads. He once overheard Chief telling a guest, "Sade's Akara is legendary. We are lucky to have her." Kunle smiled bitterly. The same woman he once mocked was now the bride of his boss. He began following her YouTube videos anonymously. She posted weekly clips: how to fry puff-puff, how to price meals, how to market with zero budget. But more than recipes, she shared her story. She was insulted. She was pregnant. She was abandoned. But she started again with two hands, her unborn child, and faith. Thousands commented. Some shared how her story encouraged them. Others prayed for her. Kunle watched it all in silence. Sometimes he cried. One day, he typed a message, "I'm sorry, you deserved more," but then he deleted it. He knew she didn't need his apology. The world had already written her name in gold. He started attending church again, quietly, no grand entrance. Just a man trying to get close to God again. He stopped chasing Sandra. He stopped drinking. He began saving. Every month, he set aside something small in a separate bank account for the child he knew he had but was yet to meet. He had nothing to offer but his presence, and even that he knew had to be earned. Sometimes, he would pass by Taste of Sade's place just to see the crowd, hear the laughter, and smell the success. He never entered, he just watched from across the road. Like a man gazing at a dream that once lived in his own home. 3 years later, Kunle finally got the chance to meet Aanu on her third birthday. Sade had allowed it. He came with a small teddy bear and shaking hands. Aanu was shy at first, but then she reached out to touch his cheek. He wept openly. "I'm sorry, my daughter," he whispered. Sade watched from a distance. She didn't smile. She didn't cry either. Later that night, she told Aanu, "Your father is trying. That's a good thing. But never forget where you came from." Underneath the starry Lagos sky, Sade stood on the balcony of her new home. A modest duplex she bought herself. Her staff had gone home. Aanu was fast asleep. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and whispered, "Thank you, Lord. You really write the best stories."